Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the AEW Dynamite review. Dynamite tonight was from the Gas South Arena in Duluth, Georgia. I think that's how you pronounce the name of the city. But this was week 2 of Fyter Fest on Dynamite, and it was all hyped up around the barbed wire everywhere match between Chris Jericho and Eddie Kingston. Chris Jericho being the Painmaker, which we all know when he's the Painmaker, he is undefeated. So he ended up taking on Eddie Kingston, and this was one hell of a match. Very bloody match. Of course, it had barbed wire over everything. The ring ropes had barbed wire. Hell, even the mic, when Justin Roberts was announcing the match, had barbed wire over it. But it was a very good match, and Eddie Kingston lived up to what he said he was going to do to Jericho, which was make Jericho bleed. And that's exactly what he did. He made Jericho bleed in the match. But aside from that match, we saw Brody King versus Darby Allin. Jon Moxley and Willow Yuta ended up taking on the Best Friends, Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta. Luchasaurus and Christian Cage ended up taking on the Varsity Blondes, Griff Garrison and Brian Pillman Jr. We had the FTW Championship on the line in an open challenge where Ricky Starks defended the title against Cole Karter. If you don't know who Cole Karter is, he was originally Troy 2x Donovan in NXT. He was with Tony D'Angelo. Hey, how you doing, Tony D? And then, he was with also Chan Stacks Lorenzo. So him and Chan Stacks Lorenzo were with Tony D'Angelo. So he was released from WWE because he failed a drug test. And so Tony Khan, snatched him up and signed him to an AEW contract. And so he ended up taking on Ricky Starks for the FTW Championship. We also saw Jade Cargill and Kiera Hogan versus Athena and Nightingale. And of course the main event, which was the barbed wire everywhere match between Jericho and Eddie Kingston. But Dynamite tonight was a very good show. But let's jump right into the review. So, week 2 of Fyter Fest on Dynamite opened up with Brody King versus Darby Allin. And this was a very good match here. Darby Allin got destroyed by Brody King in this match. So Darby Allin, as soon as he came out, he went right at Brody King. And Brody King ended up catching Darby Allin as he ended up trying to dive straight away at Brody King. But Brody ended up catching Darby and slammed him into the barricade. Brody ended up choking Darby onto the ring post. Brody then ended up leveling Darby Allin with a clothesline and then delivered a huge chop to Darby. Brody then connected with a couple of atomic drops. He ended up dropping Darby Allin down to the floor. He then attempted to put Darby onto the top turnbuckle. Darby ended up fighting back. And then he dived onto Brody, only for Brody to just swat Darby out of the air, which was crazy. Brody then ended up grabbing Darby by his pants, and he ragdolled Darby around the ring and into the bottom rope. There was a point later on in the match where Darby Allin retrieved a belt from under the ring. And he ended up hooking the belt around Brody King's feet. He ended up dragging Brody to the floor and then laid a series of right hands to Brody. And then Darby ended up cannonballing through the bottom rope to hit Brody. So both guys were back inside the ring, and Darby ended up hitting the coffin drop to Brody. And as Darby was going for another, Brody ended up catching him in the sleeper. And Brody then ended up setting Darby into the Tree of Woe, which allowed Brody to punch away at Darby. Brody was looking to go for the cannonball. Darby ended up pulling himself up from the Tree of Woe as Brody ended up hitting the turnbuckles, and Darby ended up nailing Brody with the Code Red. Darby ended up going for the cover, to which Brody ended up kicking out. So Darby ended up locking the submission on Brody, and Brody ended up powering up, and he nailed the cannonball on Darby Allin. He ended up crushing Darby into the corner. Darby tried to fight back with an attempted stunner from the top turnbuckle on the ring apron, but Brody ended up blocking it. And Brody used the rear naked choke on Darby. So we had Darby Allin walked into the Gonzo Bomb from Brody, and Brody ended up going for the cover. And there you go. Brody King ended up winning the match. Post-match, Brody locked in the submission on Darby Allin, and Sting ended up making his way down. So Sting got into the ring. Brody ended up pulling on Sting's coat, and Sting looked like he was going for the Scorpion Death Drop, but the lights end up going out. We hear a thump in the ring, so I guess Sting hit the Scorpion Death Drop on Brody. So when the lights came back on, Malachi Black was in the ring. Sting and Malachi Black were, facing each other, and it allowed for Brody to connect with the rear naked choke, and Malachi Black split the Black Mist into Sting's face. And Sting got taken down, and Miro ended up making his way out. Miro made his way out. He stomped on the ramp, and Miro was staring at Malachi Black and Brody King, and pretty much that was basically that. But overall, this was a good match between Brody King and Darby Allin, even though Darby got destroyed in this match by Brody King. But, Darby tried to put up a good fight with Brody. But Brody, he was very good in this match. And then we saw Cole Karter. Cole Karter was backstage. Ricky Starks ended up coming in, and he ended up saying that he heard that Karter was swimming with the fishes the last time people saw him. So Starks was referencing when Cole Karter was on NXT television when he was Troy 2 Times Donovan, and Tony D'Angelo ended up pushing Karter into the river. So that basically killed his character in NXT off. So we had Starks end up pointing out that he's been FTW champion for a good reason, but he doesn't see it changing. So Cole then ended up claiming that the future for Ricky Starks will look similar to his past when he beats him later on in the night. So pretty much that was basically that. So Starks referencing when Karter got killed off in NXT, he referenced that. And then we saw Jon Moxley and Wheeler Yuta versus the Best Friends, Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta. Of course, they came out along with Orange Cassidy, to which Orange Cassidy was on commentary along with William Regal, alongside Excalibur and Taz. So this was a good match here. Wheeler Yuta, he's going to be taking on Daniel Garcia this Saturday at Ring of Honor, Death Before Dishonor, for the ROH Pure Championship. He's defending the title against Daniel Garcia. And this match was, a good match here. We had Trent Beretta starting off the match with Jon Moxley. Moxley ended up taking control, and they were chopping away at each other Wheeler Yuta ended up tagging in. Chucky T ended up wanting to come in to work against Wheeler Yuta because they are former friends. And he ended up taking Wheeler Yuta into the corner, and he started dominating on Yuta. He ended up dropping Yuta with a shoulder tackle. Trent tagged in. Him and Yuta ended up going back and forth with some punches. So Chucky T had to stop Trent Beretta. And Chucky T ended up helping him. Yuta attacked him from behind. So later on, the best friends end up remaining in control of the match. They end up hitting the soul food. And Wheeler Yuta was able to kick out of the pin. Yuta fought back. He ended up planting Chucky T down. He ended up making the tag to Moxley. And Moxley ended up nailing Trent with a huge lariat. He ended up hammering some elbows as he ended up sending Chucky T out of the ring over the timekeeper's table. And he ended up throwing the table on Chucky T. Moxley ended up throwing the table on Chucky T. So Trent tried to fight back in the ring with an elbow. And he ended up diving from the second rope. He got caught with a cutter in midair. And Moxley ended up driving his boot into Trent. And then Yuta ended up tagging in. So Chucky T ended up causing a distraction to Yuta. And Chucky T ended up planting Moxley from the top turnbuckle. Then hit a pile driver on Yuta. Trent followed up with a pile driver. He ended up going for the cover, to which Yuta ended up kicking out. So Trent ended up dropping Yuta. And Moxley ended up stopping the pinfall. He delivered the real knee. And then he took down Chucky T. So at the end of the match, we had Wheeler Yuta end up catching Chucky T and end up going for the cover. And there you go. Wheeler Yuta and Jon Moxley ended up winning the match. Overall, this was a very good match. And looking forward to Wheeler Yuta defending the ROH Pure Championship against Daniel Garcia this Saturday at Death Before Dishonor. Should be a very good match between the both of them come Saturday night. And then we had a video package for Jonathan Gresham versus Claudio Castagnoli for the ROH World Championship. Now, that's going to be a fucking amazing match there. That is a dream match with Jonathan Gresham and Claudio Castagnoli going at it, and you have the ROH World Championship on the line. It's going to possibly be the best match of the night come Saturday night. So, very much looking forward to that matchup. And then we saw the commentary table, and since it's Shark Week, we saw Chompy, the mascot for Shark Week. It was someone in the costume just dancing around the back of the commentary table. I'm like, I get it's Shark Week, but did we really need this? But it's Warner Bros. Discovery. They probably told AEW, no, it's Shark Week. We got to promote this. Considering why in the Barbed Wire Everywhere match we have a shark cage hanging. But I understand they had to do that. And then we saw Tony Schiavone. Tony Schiavone ended up welcoming the new AEW World Tag Team Champions, Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland. Swerve in our glory. So they end up making their way down. Swerve ended up revealing that Kevin Gates is in attendance. Kevin Gates is this rapper, which I haven't heard any of his music. I'm not a big rap fan. So Keith Lee ended up asking Kevin Gates when he's dropping the deluxe. I guess the deluxe album. Keith Lee ended up expressing his internal thanks, not just to Swerve, but to the fans. Keith Lee ended up saying that they don't look down. So if someone wants a shot at them for the AEW World Tag Team Championship, they better reach at it. Keith Lee ended up saying that he has a toast for the titles, stating that may it be limitless. And then he got interrupted by Mark Sterling. So Mark Sterling came out along with Tony Nese, and Mark Sterling ended up saying that they warned him that they got lucky, that Swerve didn't stab him in the back. Mark Sterling ended up saying that the People Against Swerve Strickland petition is almost complete to remove him from the roster, to remove Swerve from the roster. He ended up saying that he thought it would be great to get Kevin Gates to sign the petition. So he ended up going over to Kevin Gates to see if he would sign the petition, but Kevin Gates didn't want to sign it. So Mark Sterling claimed that Kevin Gates' music sucks. And that led to Kevin Gates coming out. He went around the barricade and he was going to lay out Mark Sterling, but Tony Nese ended up getting in Kevin Gates' way. So Kevin Gates ended up knocking Tony Nese out with a punch. Tony Nese went down. Swerve then ended up picking up the cake that was on the table because there was a cake and I guess champagne and glasses on the table. So Swerve then picked up the cake and he ended up nailing Mark Sterling with the cake. So the cake was all in Mark Sterling's face. And pretty much that was basically how the segment ended. But this was awful. Mark Sterling is channel-changing garbage with this whole, sign the petition to remove Swerve Strickland off the roster. It is so cringy and terrible. And Tony Nese, he deserves a whole lot better than just being there with Mark Sterling. The guy is great in the ring, and he's just wasting there next to Mark Sterling. Get Tony Nese away from Mark Sterling and get him in the ring and have a match. This segment was terrible. Awful. Moving on. Tony Schiavone. He was backstage. He was interviewing Alex Reynolds, John Silver, and the Butcher and the Blade. John Silver was funny. He was wearing a Backstreet Boys shirt. But John Silver ended up saying that he's the meat man. And the Butcher is his favorite wrestler. So John Silver presented the Butcher with a shirt. And the shirt said Butch on it. And we had John Silver and Alex Reynolds. They ended up having a matching shirt for the Blade. And the Blade didn't like that. So Butcher and the Blade ended up being down on Silver and Reynolds. Hangman and Page end up coming by to make the save. And pretty much that was basically that. So looks like we're going to get Alex Reynolds and John Silver versus the Butcher and the Blade. And then we had Christian Cage and Luchasaurus versus the Varsity Blondes, Brian Pillman Jr. and Griff Garrison. This was a quick match. Luchasaurus was dominating from the start of the match. He ended up launching Brian Pillman Jr. into the corner. Griff Garrison tagged in. He ended up nailing 3 rolling elbows to Luchasaurus. Brian Pillman ended up tagging in, and both Pillman and Garrison end up getting dropped with a double choke, with a double clothesline. So Luchasaurus ended up hitting a choke slam to Pillman. Griff Garrison ended up getting nailed with a choke slam also. And we had Luchasaurus end up dropping Garrison onto Pillman. Christian Cage ended up tagging in, and he ended up going for the cover. And there you go. Christian Cage and Luchasaurus ended up winning the match. Post-match, Christian ended up getting onto Luchasaurus' shoulders, like how Jungle Boy did, with Jungle Boy getting on top of Luchasaurus. And here we had the return of Jungle Boy tonight. We heard Tarzan Boy play. Jungle Boy ended up coming out, had a chair in hand, and he was staring down Luchasaurus. Luchasaurus, we all thought that Luchasaurus was going to do something to Jungle Boy, but Luchasaurus stepped aside, and maybe Luchasaurus turned on Christian. So Christian was pissed off, and Jungle Boy ended up going after Christian. Christian ended up running out of the ring. He ran up the stairs in the crowd. Jungle Boy ended up chasing after Christian, and pretty much that was basically that. But two things here. We saw Luchasaurus step aside, look like he's turning on Christian. But maybe, did Luchasaurus do that and he's gonna pull a swerve on Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus is gonna beat down on Jungle Boy? Or maybe this is Luchasaurus turning back into a babyface. And if it is that, then Luchasaurus' whole heel turn was a waste. But those are my two options. Either Luchasaurus is swerving on Jungle Boy, or this is a face turn, a baby face turn here for Luchasaurus. And it was a waste of them turning Luchasaurus heel. But we'll see what happens. We'll see where this goes. Overall, this was a quick match. This was basically a squash match. And then we saw the Gun Club, Austin and Colton Gunn. They were backstage, and they had to explain why they didn't accept a match with the Acclaimed. And they're saying that's because they have cut the Acclaimed out of their lives. So Austin Gunn ended up saying this Friday on Rampage, he wants a rap battle with Max Caster. So we're going to see a rap battle on Rampage this Friday. Austin Gunn and Max Caster. And then we went to Ricky Starks versus Cole Karter. FTW Championship on the line. This was a open challenge. Ricky Starks, FTW champion. Cole Karter, this was his AEW debut. Starks started off the match. He was throwing punches and chops to Karter, putting Karter into the corner. We had Starks end up laying a lariat, which took Karter off his feet. Karter came off the top with a diving crossbody to Ricky Starks. He delivered a lariat to the apron, and he delivered a right hand, which sent Ricky Starks to the floor. We had Starks end up regaining control of the match. When he got into the ring, he ended up hitting an elbow drop. He ended up going for the cover, to which Karter ended up kicking out. Starks then ended up grabbing a hold of Karter, and he ended up walking the top rope before dropping down on him. And then Starks ended up locking in a chin lock. Starks was looking to go for his finisher, but Karter ended up getting out, and he ended up hitting the cutter. Karter was going for the 450, and Starks ended up moving out of the way, which allows Starks to hit the spear to Karter, and Starks ended up going for the cover, and there you go. Starks ended up winning the match, retaining the FTW Championship. Post-match, Starks got on the mic. He ended up claiming that he has more in the tank, and he thinks it's time to keep it going. So Starks ended up inviting another opponent to come out and answer his challenge. Another open challenge for the FTW Championship. So then Danhausen comes out. Danhausen got on the mic. He ended up saying that he heard about the open challenge. And so Danhausen accepts it. He ended up accepting fighting Ricky Starks for the FTW Championship right now. But Starks backtracked. He ended up saying to Danhausen that he didn't mean right now. He didn't mean to have the match tonight. So Ricky Starks ended up saying that next week, the match is official. It will be Danhausen versus Ricky Starks for the FTW Championship. So that was that. But what I think what will happen is we get the match. We get Danhausen versus Ricky Starks for the FTW Championship. Danhausen loses the match only for Hook to come out and challenge Ricky Starks for the FTW Championship. So we get Hook versus Ricky Starks. The title's on the line. Hook defeats Ricky Starks and takes the FTW Championship. I think Hook is going to be the FTW champion. And that'll be good because that was Taz's championship. You know, Hook is the son of Taz. So it makes sense for Hook to face Ricky Starks and have the FTW championship on the line, and Hook defeats Ricky Starks and wins the FTW championship. You know, it makes sense there. But that's how I see that going down. Danhausen loses to Ricky Starks. Hook comes out, challenges Ricky Starks to a match for the FTW Championship. Hook defeats Ricky Starks, and Hook will be the FTW champion. So that's how I see it going down. And then we saw Tony Schiavone. Tony Schiavone was backstage. He was interviewing Athena, Chris Statlander, and Will Nightingale, which the women's match was originally supposed to be Athena, Chris Statlander, and Will Nightingale versus the baddies, Jade Cargill, Kiera Hogan, and Layla Gray. But unfortunately, Layla Gray was unable to compete. We don't know why. She was not cleared. So Chris Statlander ended up saying it figures that Stokely Hathaway would take her out of the match. Athena ended up saying that this is a good opportunity to refocus on what's important, like Chris Statlander challenging for the AEW Women's World Championship and her possibly win the TBS Championship. So Athena ended up saying that the title would look amazing around Chris Statlander's waist. Will Nightingale ended up saying that she and Athena have got it tonight. Chris Statlander and Athena, they all want a shot at the TBS Championship. They all want a shot at Jade Cargill. And like I said, I think Athena is going to be the one to defeat Jade Cargill. She's going to end Jade Cargill's undefeated streak, and Athena's going to be the new TBS champion. So that's how I see that going. When Athena gets her shot at Jade Cargill for the TBS Championship. And then Tony Schiavone was in the ring. He welcomed FTR. He welcomed Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler. And this is ahead of their match at Death Before Dishonor at this Saturday, while they'll be facing the Briscoes again. So it'll be FTR versus the Briscoes for the ROH Tag Team titles. So that should be a very good match there. I heard the first match was amazing. I think the second match will possibly be as good as the first. Who knows? So Cash Wheeler ended up saying that he'll never get used to that kind of a fan reaction. He ended up saying no match has been bigger than their last encounter against the Briscoes until this Saturday. So Wheeler ended up putting over the Briscoes. He ended up saying that the Briscoes won't take away their titles. Dax Harwood then ended up talking about a 5-year-old girl who had a hole in the bottom of her heart. And if she fought, then it would fill. Harwood ended up saying that 3 years later, and the hole was completely closed. That little girl worked her ass off, and that is his daughter. He ended up saying if she will fight that hard, then Daddy has to do the same thing, as he's going to bring home a legacy that she can be proud of. He ended up saying on Saturday he's going to fight like an 8-year-old girl. Top guys out. So that was what FTR had to say. Should be a great matchup there between FTR and the Briscoes again. ROH tag team titles on the line. That'll probably be the second best match of the night at Death Before Dishonor Saturday. That's my prediction. I think the first best match of the night will be Claudio Castagnoli versus Jonathan Gresham for the ROH World Championship. But good promo from FTR. And then we saw Jay Lethal and Sanjay Dutt and Satnam Singh. Great Value, Great Khali. They were backstage. Jay Lethal ended up saying that he'd have done it weeks ago. But Samoa Joe just doesn't turn up. So then Christopher Daniels ended up appearing. Christopher Daniels ended up telling Jay Lethal that if he's so anxious to wrestle, why don't we face off Friday on Rampage? So pretty much that was basically that. So it's going to be Christopher Daniels versus Jay Lethal this Friday on Rampage. So that should be a good match there. And then we had Athena and Will Nightingale versus Jade Cargill and Kiera Hogan. And like I said, this was supposed to be Athena, Chris Statlander, and Will Nightingale versus Jade Cargill, Kiera Hogan, and Layla Gray. But like I said, Layla Gray was not cleared to compete, so they ended up changing the match. So Stokely Hathaway got on the mic, and he ended up saying that he had both good news and bad news. Hathaway ended up saying that the bad news is Layla Gray isn't cleared to compete. He ended up saying that the good news is that he banned Chris Statlander from ringside, and now there will be no head slapping. So then Jade Cargill got on the mic, and she ended up saying that she's going to show everyone why she's that bitch. So then the match got underway, which the match was solid in my opinion. Jade ended up taking out to Kiera Hogan, who came in. She ended up locking up with Athena. They ended up going back and forth with arm drags. Will Nightingale then ended up tagging in. She connected with a power slam to Kiera Hogan. She then ended up dropping Athena onto Kiera Hogan, and Kiera Hogan ended up kicking out. Athena ended up sending Jade Cargill out to the floor. Will then ended up running from the apron, and she ended up flipping to take both Athena and Will Nightingale out. Athena then ended up diving from the top rope, and she ended up taking out Jade Cargill and Kiera Hogan. So Kiera Hogan ended up managing to drag Athena down from the top rope, and Jade Cargill ended up tagging in. She ended up hitting a back elbow in the corner to Athena. So Kiera Hogan ended up getting involved, and she ended up delivering a DDT, and she ended up coming in with a big boot to Athena's face. So Jade Cargill ended up getting involved. She ended up getting rid of Will Nightingale as she was going back and forth against Athena. Stokely Hathaway ended up getting in Athena's face, and Athena ended up throwing Stokely Hathaway up the ramp, to which Jade Cargill ended up coming in, and she ended up nailing Athena with a super kick as Athena ended up falling into the ring steps. Cargill ended up getting caught with a small package from Will Nightingale, and she managed to escape out of it. She ended up slamming Nightingale down, and she ended up going for the cover, to which Nightingale ended up kicking out. And then Cargill ended up following it up with the Jaded. So Jade Cargill and Kiera Hogan ended up winning the match. Overall, it was a solid women's match, in my opinion. And then we went to Thunderstorm, Toni Storm and Thunder Rosa. They were being interviewed, and it was announced that Thunder Rosa will be defending the AEW Women's World Championship next week against Miyu Yamashita. And she kept saying that the win is coming home next week. So then we saw Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, and Jamie Hayter. Britt Baker ended up saying that she thinks there should be fewer Thunder Rosa promos and more of her. So she kept saying that they'll see them Friday on Rampage. So pretty much that was basically that. So we're going to get Thunder Rosa versus Miyu Yamashita next week for the AEW Women's World Championship. Should be a good match there. Main event. The Barbed Wire Everywhere match between Chris Jericho versus Eddie Kingston. Chris Jericho, of course, coming out as the Painmaker, where he is undefeated with being the Painmaker. And the Jericho Appreciation Society was locked in a shark cage. So it was revealed that Ruby Soho was the keeper of the key, and that she was the one in charge of lifting the shark cage. She pressed a button there, and the shark cage ended up getting hoisted up into the air, and the Jericho Appreciation Society was hanging in the shark cage above the other crowd. So Chris Jericho came out with Floyd the Bat that was wrapped in barbed wire, because, of course, Barbed Wire Everywhere match where everything was wrapped in barbed wire. You had the ring post wrapped in barbed wire, the ring ropes wrapped in barbed wire. You had the mic, which Justin Roberts used, wrapped in barbed wire. The ring bell was wrapped in barbed wire. Tables wrapped in barbed wire. You had a barbed wire bed wrapped in barbed wire spider webs, which was cool. So Jericho made his way out, and then Eddie Kingston came out. Eddie Kingston immediately took the mic from Justin Roberts, and he ended up smashing the mic wrapped in barbed wire onto Jericho's head, which already Jericho was busted open immediately because of that. Kingston lived up to his words and said, I'm going to make Jericho bleed, and that's exactly what Eddie Kingston did. So Jericho ended up responding by using the ring belt wrapped in barbed wire. So Jericho ended up hitting Kingston with the ring bell, and both Jericho and Kingston were brawling, and Jericho ended up going face first into a barbed wire table. And this was a good match, I gotta say, but I did have issues with it. It wasn't a perfect match by any means, though. But we had both guys going back into the ring. Kingston ended up launching Jericho into the barbed wire that wrapped around the ropes. So Jericho went back first into the ring ropes, and he ended up bouncing back into the ring. Kingston then ended up wielding a chair that was covered in barbed wire. He smashed it into Jericho, but Jericho ended up fighting back, setting Kingston on the top rope. He connected with a Hurricanrana, which sent Kingston into a barbed wire table, and Kingston's leg became stuck in the barbed wire, which was crazy. So we saw Kingston end up getting slammed onto the barbed wire again, and then Jericho locked in the walls of Jericho, with Kingston's chest being locked inside the barbed wire. So they started throwing hands at each other. Kingston ended up dropping Jericho on the top rope, which of course was covered in barbed wire. They then brawled on the ring apron. And Eddie Kingston and Jericho were on the apron. So Kingston suplexed Jericho out of the ring, and both Kingston and Jericho end up going through the barbed wire table, and Jericho was stuck with the barbed wire, going through the other table, which Jericho got the worst of it because he was trapped in the barbed wire after going through the table. So then Tay Conti ended up appearing. So Tay Conti came down. She started brawling with Ruby Soho. And then Anna Jay ended up coming out. Anna Jay tried to help Ruby Soho. Anna Jay ended up nailing Ruby Soho with a punch because, of course, Anna Jay and Tay Conti, good friends. So Anna Jay ended up launching Ruby Soho into the ring post. Anna Jay ended up taking control of the device that lowered the shark cage, and Anna Jay began to lower the shark cage down with that device. Tay Conti ended up getting a hold of the key, and she ended up unleashing the Jericho Appreciation Society because you had Jake Hager in the cage along with Matt Menard, Angelo Parker, Danny Garcia, and they all began sliding out of the cage. And I had a problem with that because Tay Conti was just trying to unlock the cage, and you just see them slide out of it. So there was no opening of the cage. They just slid out of it. So the whole Jericho Appreciation Society ended up coming into the ring. They beat down on Eddie Kingston. Ortiz, Claudio Castagnoli, Will Yuta, and Jon Moxley end up coming out. Ortiz ended up hitting Jericho with the sock, with the mad ball in there. And Eddie Kingston ended up hitting an exploder suplex into the barbed wire onto Jericho. And Kingston ended up going for the cover, to which Jericho ended up kicking out. Kingston ended up winding up to go for the big swing with a barbed wire chair. And Jericho ended up hitting the code breaker, and the chair ended up stabbing Jericho in the face, and he couldn't keep Eddie Kingston down. So Jericho got a hold of the chair, and he was hitting chair shots to Eddie Kingston, and then Jericho went for the lion salt. Eddie ended up throwing the chair into his knee to block the lion salt. So Eddie Kingston ended up delivering the back fist onto Jericho. Kingston ended up getting a coil of barbed wire out from under the ring, and he took that piece of barbed wire, wrapped it around Jericho, and then Sammy Guevara ended up running in. Sammy Guevara delivered a super kick to Eddie Kingston. He started beating Eddie Kingston down. So that led to Jericho hitting the Judas effect, and Jericho ended up going for the cover. And there you go. Chris Jericho ended up winning the match. Post-match, Eddie Kingston recovered. He ended up hitting the back fist on Sammy Guevara. Eddie Kingston ended up throwing Jericho into the barbed wire spider web on the floor. And Jericho was caught in that. And that was how Dynamite went off the air. Overall, this was a good match, but do have, my issues with it. Why do we see the Jericho Appreciation Society sliding out of the cage when, Tay Conti had the key, and, the gate of the cage should have opened, but they were sliding out of it while the cage was still closed. There could have been, a little explosion, in the ring. And also Sammy Guevara coming in to help Jericho. I'm like, Jericho could have won it on his own because he's the Painmaker, and the Painmaker is undefeated. Jericho, when he's the Painmaker, he's undefeated. So he shouldn't have gotten help from Sammy Guevara. Jericho could have won the match on his own. So, but that's my opinion. Overall, it was a good match. It wasn't perfect by any means. Had my issues with it. But still, didn't hate it. But that was Dynamite tonight. Overall, very good show for week 2 of Fyter Fest. But anyways, that's it for my review of Dynamite. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe. Be sure to check out my movie hunting video if you guys haven't checked it out. Uploaded it yesterday, so definitely give that a watch. Also, my Monday Night Raw review is up, so check out that. But anyways, till next video, see you all later.